Hey there, my name is Tiffany. I work at Kent of Inglewood, and I've been in quarantine for the last 2 weeks, so it's been really boring. So I've been brushing up on all kinds of skills that I like to practice, like making a feather stick. So these are two that I've already made today, and one is pretty good and the other one is not so great. This one is a lot less dense than the other one, and so it will catch a spark and it will start a fire, but it just isn't tight enough to really be effective. This one's going a lot better than the other one. You can see that the bushiness is all pushed to one end, which is really the desired effect, because that way it will catch a spark and it'll help to light the stick for when you need to have a fire on cold winter days like this one. What I like to use is my new favorite tool. This is a Helle knife that I picked up at Kent. It's the Helle Utvear. What I really love about this knife is that it's a nice big heavy blade, full tang, so it's really durable. It's also really pretty. It's very comfortable in my hand and it stays stupid sharp, so it's really great for doing stuff like this. So with a feather stick, one of the main things that you want to do is have really long straight strokes, which will pull off a nice long beautiful curl. If they snap off, it's not going to matter very much, because most of that will collect in the head anyway. I'm using a cardboard box here because I don't like vacuuming. But also I really like to collect the shavings because they're really great for fire starter too. So these are sticks that I quartered from a tree we took down in the summertime. So it's been seasoned and it's nice and dry. So I'll start fresh. You want to start at the top and really just work your way around the stick. And you want to push those down as far as they'll go. Again, one of the main things that you want to focus on is a nice light pressure and a really straight line. Because my feet are going to fall asleep, I'm just going to sit here on the side of the fireplace. I like to prop it up on a log or something to, use sort of as a cutting board. But I'm going to keep my arm nice and straight and pull off just really long, thin curls. A feather stick is really useful for starting a fire, obviously, is its whole point. If the wood is a little bit wet, because your curls here are going to be so thin, they can still catch a spark and light the fire. So that's super handy. You can use like a flint and steel or a ferro rod or a match. I like to use a match sometimes with a feather stick, but this way you don't have to use any paper. I mean, you can, but you don't have to. The other thing I really like about using a feather stick is that I used to smoke a lot. So when I was sitting around a campfire, I had a really hard time not chain smoking. And so when I quit smoking, I started doing stuff like this to keep my hands busy and my mind busy. And, during quarantine, I found it really helpful to keep my mind busy because there's only so much cooking a girl can do. I mean, I suppose I could vacuum, but as I've already mentioned, I sort of hate that. I'm just going to chop that one off because I don't need it. And if you have something to collect the shavings underneath, it's super helpful. There's another super helpful little thing you can pick up at Kent. I don't have one because I've got this handy cardboard box, but the Trekker's little helper is just a nice little sheet of leather that will help collect all of your shavings and the feather stick and things so that you can actually put the spark right onto your feather stick rather than having it in the fire pit. I find if it's on the ground, it's easier to catch the angle. So if you have a piece of leather or pick up a Trekker's little helper, it's easier to light the spark outside of a fire pit than it is inside the fire pit. And then you can just transport your baby fire so that you can create a new one. So we're gonna go all the way around this stick like this and just continue to create thin curls and push them all the way down to the bottom. What I was saying earlier with this feather stick, it's not quite as successful because it's not super dense. And the way you can prevent that is by making sure your knife goes all the way down to the bottom and pushing it into, you know, the groove that you're creating to make sure that all the curls there have the same sort of root point, I guess. I really enjoy things like making feather sticks and sharpening my knife and my axe because I find it really helpful and just like clearing my mind in times of stress or when things are going too fast. We're living in strange days right now for sure, and so it's been really nice to have skills like this so that I can start the fire I want to cook on, or the fire I'm using just to relax around or whatever, and not think about anything for a good couple of hours while I'm doing something with my hands. Ooh, that was a good one. So once you've got your stick nice and smooth, you can see that the curls are getting a lot curlier and denser. And that's because you're doing a lot less carving and a lot more just shaving the edges off of the places you've already been. So I'm getting really nice, thin, tight curls on this side of my stick. And then on this side of the stick, it's a little bit more raw, so I'm still going to be pulling off like kind of straighter, flatter, wider stuff. Oh, but this is working just fine, so. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, because it's still a little bit too flat on this side. This side is nice and round now, so I can create an edge to peel off every time. It does take some patience and a fair amount of time to make a really good feather stick. And so you don't ever want to have to make one if you're in a hurry. One of the things that I like to do if I need to have one right away is I kept my Helle tube. It might even still be, yeah, and I like to keep a feather stick in there and bring it with me camping so that, you know, if I want to start the fire right away, I can. So I just like hook that on the back of my backpack and we're off to the races as soon as we hit camp. And so I can think about setting up my tent and getting the dinner started or whatever instead of sitting down and making feather sticks right away. So that's pretty much it. That's how you make a feather stick. This one is coming along really well. As I say, it's patient work, so I'm going to be at it for a little bit longer, and I'm sure it's really boring to watch. So I hope that that helps you guys get through the boring hours of this quarantine and helps you develop a new skill for when we get out there and camp again.